I am addicted, and I'm probably going to do it again. I see no cure in my future. And I see that some of you are probably addicted too. You just have to admit it that you enjoyed it, and you're going to do it again. I am a reoccurring tourist, and I'm proud of it. And I hope to never recover. In fact, I am so proud of it that at times I bring my wife and friends along on my travels. I'm doubly proud in the fact that for 14 years, I have worked in the tourism industry. We are a society of explorers and seekers, and many of us enjoy exploring history, places, and culture. Tourism is a great connector for communities. Tourism creates jobs. Tourism teaches history, expands culture. And sometimes tourism even attracts new residents. Unlike war, where borders are crossed and lands are conquered, tourism opens doors and takes down borders. Tourism is a way to tell stories like no other community can. Tourism brings economic value to cities, small and large. The more we connect with others about how we live, the more we live as connected communities. Mankind has always been wanderers. Nomadic tribes have moved around for years. Some people just want to see what's over the next horizon. In early days, travel was more out of necessity than it was out of pleasure. People moved around because of war and because of famine. Or maybe you had to return to your birthplace because of a population census. Mankind has been travelers for years, but tourism, as we know it today, is a relatively new entity. In 1896, businessmen in Detroit, Michigan, pulled their collective resources together to attract people from outside of Detroit into town for conventions and trade shows. They understood how the bottom dollar was impacted by money that came in from outside of their communities. Thus, the first Visitors Bureau became to be. So for 127 years, tourism is how it is today and what we work with. It was really the invention of automobiles and airplanes and the advancements of cruise ships that's really moved the modern era of travel to what we know. You can explore the globe today like never before, and we do. Tourism is a social, economic, and cultural industry, and it's mostly about the movement of people. And it's done in three key ways: leisure, business, and group. Let's dig into these a little bit deeper here. Leisure travel is what you and I would do probably on a weekend or over a holiday or spring break. Just a little point-to-point type trip. It may be more detailed, that we're going a longer distance. It may be highly planned and laid out, or it may be something that we just do on a whim. In leisure travel, it may involve overnight stays in an area, but it may be hopping around in different locations. Business travel is just that. It's travel for business. Maybe it's going and opening a big deal or closing a big deal or training or checking out inventory or something to do with the actual aspects of business. Based on the area of transportation, lodging may occur or may not. People may travel in one day for business and back out again. The biggest of these three is group travel. And group travel expands from sporting events to conventions and trade shows to reunions of families to large gatherings of people. Group travel is just that. It is moving a mass to a certain location for the same purpose. Group travel is going to have a lot of room nights at one location because of the activities that are going on because of that one location that are happening there. The U.S. Travel Association put this beautiful graph together kind of showing the trickle-down effect of what the tourism dollars do. And starting at the top with the groups I just mentioned, leisure, business, and group, it moves down to a second tier of transportation and how the dollars affect us moving things. What's not on here is something like cycling or even by foot or ventures of hiking, outdoor activities. The next tier is the direct input to people, the venues where people go to, hotels, entertainment venues, amusement parks, and these. Those are the direct input that tourism is impacting. The next tier down is the secondary input. It may be the suppliers or the benefactors from having tourism in the area. Suppliers like bakeries or like benefactors like schools who benefit from the revenue dollars that are generated through tourism. On down to the people who are working in the tourism industry. And that's kind of a cool thing for us in the business is the fact that we get to be a benefactor of tourism, but we also get to be a tourist and put our dollars back into it. Talk about a really green industry. That's what we can do. The association talks about tourism as one of America's largest industries. 15.8 million jobs are connected to travel spending. $179.7 billion a year going into city, state, and federal coffers that are generated by tourism entities. And what that means on the trickle-down side is for families is that a household will pay $1,398 less in taxes because of the impact of having tourism in their immediate area that goes through. Social, economic, culture activities of moving people. The kind of the fourth leg to the stool is the destinations themselves. The first three talk about moving people, and the destinations really have an impact on a fourth leg that's called niche tourism. In niche tourism, well, not everybody has a beautiful mountain or a valley or a vista that they can call as a destination. We all don't have those things. Nor do we all have shorelines or harbors or beaches that attract people. We have to find things that are uniquely different. Maybe we don't have the national landmarks or those beautiful vistas that people want to photograph and be a part of. So niche tourism really is an important piece of what goes on for the smaller communities, not the large destinations. We look at niche tourism. I'm sure you all have done the amusement park or the zoos when you've gone to bigger cities and partake in your travels. I've got a brother who loves history, and every time he travels, he connects a presidential library or a burial site or something tied to a president that he wants to learn more about the history that goes through, which takes us to historical sites and monuments. Religious tourism and dark tourism are not the same. Religious tourism would have more of a spiritual type of an uplift to it, where dark tourism has more to do with murders, deaths, places that things have happened that are really not very pleasant. Hollywood celebrities are going to a film site to where you see where a film was shot at, and actually walking in the steps of your favorite celebrity is a huge piece of that entity as well. You can also go down to urban or jungle or rural type activities. Historical places always have the activities of wanting to know more about that period of history. On down to shopping, spas, luxury. My favorite is food and beverage. I'll admit more of the beverage than the food, but it's still an important part of tourism that goes on. Tourism, niche tourism is focused on helping local economies. It could be the smallest town in the world, but it has something that's worth drawing people for. It has that economic connection to it. It ties them to maybe something else in the area or in the region that they want to go to. And it's the old adage about let's pull them off the highway, something to get them off there just for a few minutes going through activities. It's been there for more than 80 years. We don't need it today because up in South Dakota, there's more gas stations and places to stop. But up at Walls Drug, for generations now, has had people stopping there because of free ice water. It's not as important today, but yet the grandkids of grandkids of grandkids have got to experience and see it. Or it may be like I did. You got to hold your bicycle up in front of the world's largest rocking chair up by Rolla, Missouri. Or you need to go to a little town called Diamond, Missouri, and experience the world's largest small appliance museum. It exists. That's on the backside of a Western store. You got to ask to go to it, but it is there. The world's largest small appliance museum. It's a personal story. I won't tell you about it, but you've got to go experience it. You have to do it. This tourism is also about compelling entities or compelling activities, things you just got to be there. It's also about storytelling, not only the place itself, but you having a story to tell when you get through with it. And it's about making memories. One of my favorite parts of tourism really is bicycle tourism. I've had the pleasure of going across Missouri 3 times on bicycle, multiple day activities and crossing the state. And on the second time we went across the state, about day 3 or 4, I really don't remember the town, but I knew that lunch, the halfway point on the journey, was an uphill climb. We had about a 7-mile climb up to this little town. Now, in Missouri, there are hills, but it's not a mountain, but it is there. I don't remember the town, but about 7 miles out, about every half mile, we saw this sign, pork chop on a stick. Now, recall I said we were on a hill, so I didn't stop and get a picture. You don't do that on a hill, so I made the graphics for you here. But every half mile, and about a quarter mile as we got closer to town, all we saw was pork chop on a stick. Pork chop on a stick. Nothing about the price, nothing about the community or the organization doing it. And as luck would have it, we pulled into town, they were sold out. But there were 7 miles of advertising for 100 cyclists before me that got pork chops on a stick. I will admit that about every so often in this 7-mile journey, it did say frozen monkey tails. Those were good for a hot day on a bicycle. Bananas frozen and dipped in milk chocolate. They were good. But compelling stories, memory-making events that go on that have an impact on things that we try to accomplish in the tourism area and leave people wanting more, leaving people wanting to talk about where they were and what they experienced. In Joplin, we know too well about disaster tourism, and there's 2 sides to this coin. One is the people who just have got to see the disaster. It's like why we go to NASCAR. We don't go to NASCAR to see who won. We go to NASCAR to see the big wreck, the big one. Well, we had people who came to Joplin just to see what was going on. In fact, nowadays, your national weather guys are telling you, don't go because you're going to die. But you have to see it. It's a mixed message. They're standing in the waves getting splashed on or standing in the river. It's definitely a mixed message. The part of disaster tourism that we in Joplin are very thankful for are those folks who were compelled to come help. We had over 186,000 people that we know that registered as volunteers over 3 years that gave us over 1 million man-hours of help to rebuild our community. And we will forever be thankful for that piece of disaster tourism as we went through. A new one on the block is space tourism. Yes, it is coming and it is in reality. That high-tech balloon will take you for 2 hours up to 80,000 feet, let you spend 2 hours cruising the edges of space, and come down 2 more hours for a 6-hour space tourism experience. All in that fancy gondola with food, beverage, and yes, free Wi-Fi for $125,000 a person. Any takers? It's coming. You'll be able to see the earth like you have never done it before, all through the areas of tourism. This 2016 study that was done by the Longwood International found that the tourism campaigns of 9 states, these campaigns were states advertising outside of their markets in hope to attract people into town, into market, and spend their money in those states. They found that those marketing campaigns created the halo effect. And the halo effect is when you have a message but you get a different outcome from that message. Something else happened as a result of this advertising. And it's usually a positive thing, because once somebody gets into a state and has the experience they saw on a commercial, and it is positive, that is just magnified exponentially. What they found was that, yes, visitorship was up, but because of the tourism campaigns, it also drove business development, real estate sales, retirements, second home purchases. It even had an impact on college recruitment. Tourism has an impact on every community that has the entity. The halo effect also taught us one thing that's really, really impressive for our industry, is that every new resident to a community was a guest, a tourist first. And that's impressive, that we have an impact on growing our communities, not only just through the bottom line and through revenue, but the fact that we do such a good job of selling our communities that people want to now come and live there and be a part of us. That is a very proud thing that tourism can deliver to every community, small and large. If I leave you with one thing today, I'd like to leave you with that tourism has value. Tourism can be positioned as no other industry can to make changes and make things different. It has value for every different level of the community, from working to delivering on tourism. The more we connect with each other about how we live, the more we live as connected communities. Hope to see you out there.